Okay, couple of quick notes. If anyone is still looking to interview or talk to companies, they're calling it, well, a mock interview, I guess. Some of you have already done things like this. But Keylogic has, both Keylogic, well, actually, 3 of these 4 companies have hired our graduates recently. So if you're interested in these companies, does anyone know about this company? I have not heard of it, but Keylogic is based in Morgantown. At least they have a fairly major presence here, and they do across the board. They do design, development, database work. They do, I think, consulting, network security. So it's sort of across the spectrum. If you're interested, I would suggest looking at meeting them. And PNC Bank, I think they're based in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so then I do know that they've also hired at least one of our graduates to here. So I didn't know that they are the umbrella company. Okay. So anyway, so if you're interested, please sign up. I think this is the career services people. So and Dr. Kleist has said you went on some visits here to WVU Medicine. If you were saying, okay. She said they had some pretty nice stuff there. So if you're interested, that might be worth exploring. Meeting with somebody to discuss. So anyways, that's one thing I wanted to mention, and yeah. They're also, okay, so they're coming to the class, so they're coming next Monday, 23rd, okay, and 24th, they are, I don't know if I think they'll be in this class as well, so, yeah.
You're going to interview with them, you want to make sure you brush up on all your skills, because they ask you really technical questions.
Fast Enterprises?
Yeah, they'll be definitely asking you things that you're going to share with them, of course.
This is the MISA meeting on Monday. What's the 23rd? Okay. What time is it? And as Jason said, if you're interested in Fast Enterprises, is it programming? Do they go across the spectrum, like? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Tim, what did they ask you for in Fast Enterprises?
Well, there was a lot of pseudocode stuff, like how would you, like ticket sell. The specific one was ticket sell, and you know how it goes from ABC, like how would you do that?
Okay.
And there's just, after that, there's a lot of logic problems, and our producers love, like, what's the angle between the iron and the for
Mm.
so it wasn't too much technical stuff, but it was more like they wanted to really know how you saw it.
Okay.
I don't think they expected to actually do it too much.
Okay, so they didn't expect you to set up a list to read and loop through or something when you said the Excel spreadsheet?
Well, they don't need you to do it in like actual code. They want you to do the series. So
Okay.
Like, tell them, yeah, I'm going to loop through and do this, but
Okay.
it doesn't have to be properly formatted and anything like that.
Okay. Okay, so pseudocode and pseudocode, logic problems. Maybe one of the things that the MISA meetings, maybe you can get a set of questions that various interviewers have asked, and then maybe discuss them. Okay. So anyway, I don't know if I should, Jack, I guess for the first time, second time, we actually have a professional player among us, right? How many sports? I was going to look up what's the percentage, do you know, of college athletes who get a chance at a professional team? It must be like 2%, 1%. So, anyways, good luck. And I was going to ask, do you know any famous person whose last day is at work today? Well, it's obvious, right? Who is that? Well, I was going to. I was thinking you'll think of the president, and I was going to point at Jack. So, anyways, hopefully he'll not come back, which will be a good sign for you. So anyways, I'll talk to you after class. The other thing is, as far as the application, there are many aspects to it. One of the things that, Mike pointed out, which if you are going to be true to MVC and Scrum, and we'll get more into this from next week onward, today I want to focus on all the things that I asked you to work on, the functionality, so that we can discuss it. Let's see, user stories. Wait a minute, this is the user story that, I borrowed it from Cody, right? That's, from tomorrow I don't have to say I borrowed it from anyone, right? I can just say it's all mine, because, that's from, let's see. And anyways, Mike also pointed out something that is very important. So while I want to claim credit for it, I cannot. I have to give him credit. As I said, from tomorrow I don't have to do that. So let's see. Coming back to this, so there are several functionalities here. The student can only register in the same course offering, which the student can only register in the same course offering once, right? Register only if there's availability, update after each registration, and of course the other side comes in. If you want to drop a course, you have to update availability in the opposite direction. But the case that Mike was making was that we shouldn't be using the SQL code to be doing this if we want to stay true to MVC and Agile. So what do we do? And he had found some solutions which I hadn't. So I want to discuss this first, and then move on to these different pieces of the user story. And I asked you to submit it on FileWalker, but also I just pulled up Abdul Leela and Josh. So these are the ones for. So he has the course. This is Abdul Leela. So this is the list of course offerings. And then if I went into the courses the student has registered, one of the things I need to be able to do is to go in, if I'm editing, if the instructor is editing. So after this, one of the things we have not looked at, among many other things, so next week, just to lay out a generic plan, one aspect that I want to get back into is Scrum, so that we can correlate whatever we are doing. The second is the project, and for the project we need to get a little more into our source control. So these two will be major objectives for next week. The other piece that we need to bring into play gradually is, like right now, if I want to edit, which user group do you want to edit? If I allow Abdul Leela to edit his own grades, he's going to potentially make everything A's or whatever, or he might go into, based on what I'm seeing in some of, I guess 3/4 of the time I'm having to write evaluations for other faculty, and it's not, I'm just finding it hard to convince some others that, not in our department, but in others, that we should just write good letters. It's like people want to bring down other people. So maybe Abdul Leela will not only go in and make his grade A, but somebody doesn't like, he'll make them all F's. But to avoid that, obviously you want, what do you want? What do we need to explore? Roles, okay, roles, so which comes into security, okay. And so we will get into some of the MVC authentication, roles, authorization. So that's something we need to explore. And what's the other? Well, let's see, some of you have already started doing it, so I think Mike had it on his, and I think to some extent Stella also. So these were the first ones that I saw, so I just pulled them out. I need to make a list of all the student Azure links. So where is this? Where did it go? I missed the HTTP. Okay, so she has some, she has addressed some of the UI aspects. So anyways, where is my, so we'll try to get a little more into the UI. So I have to rotate things out. So I'll probably do a little bit of each, starting with these two next week, and then with UI, it's JavaScript, and they have JavaScript libraries, so that's something we will try to get into. And if I can, I don't know if are any of you in contact with Dan Lively? No? Okay, he's the best UI person I know, but if we can, maybe we'll get him for one of Preston for your the MISA meetings, and we can record his discussion. Okay, so those are some things that we need to come back to, but for now there is okay, so this is Abdul Leela's, and so if I go into the edit option for a course that a student is registered, I want to be able to give a letter grade, and if I save it, I need to be able to get the grade points associated with it. If I go into students, if one of the things that it should do when I give a grade is to start giving the GPA. And as far as registration itself is concerned, if I try to create a new, if it's for Michael Jordan, it should come back saying he's already registered for this particular course. And if I go with, let's see, Smith, this is registration. Okay, so this should, so if I want to register, let's see, the offerings, so 450 is 002, it has one available opening. Okay, so it created it. Now if I go back to the offerings, it should reduce it to 0. And if I go back to this registration so are all the students registered? There's one more? Okay. So if I, Messi, okay. So if I try to register Messi here, okay, the course is not available. So if I go into registration, it did put them in, and so can somebody tell me why is Messi being registered in this course, even though Abdul Leela had set up the error message to detect? So if you go to course offerings, he detected, the logic detected that there was 0 availability and came back with a message. And you can see it didn't reduce this, but it did register the student in the course. How many of you were able to avoid this happening? So you should be able to give the message, but the one step that Abdul Leela's logic doesn't do, so it takes care of, it gives a message, it takes care of not reducing this, it keeps it at 0, but the piece that is being allowed is the student is actually being registered. So how many of you managed to avoid having the student being registered? Josh, did you avoid it?
Yeah, I was going to test it.
You see, that's why there are multiple components to it, which is what you want to put into your conditions so that you can test each of them. So what we'll do is to sort of look at that logic, and then of course the other logic is for the GPA. How many of you figured that out? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I will look at it and I'll discuss that. That's going to be the other piece. But first, let me start with reluctantly giving Mike credit. Actually, I should give Mike a lot of credit for this. It's funny, I keep thinking of people not giving credit in various levels. So anyways, so let's see. The fifth place is the course registration, because it's we have this made-up primary key, and the way we decided to where's my I have this SQL script that's taking care of it by setting up a unique constraint, but we can set that up by going into course registration, and these two, my previous exploration, I only found these are all data annotations, so Microsoft is constantly adding something here, and Mike also pointed out that the documentation is not very good, and the way the terms they use don't quite correlate to the terms used on the database side. So if you just wanted to set up a composite primary key, you would do it this way. Okay, so let's say you didn't want a surrogate key, then you would set it up. But what we want is, we want the surrogate key, because do you remember why we want this? Where is it most useful? Somebody other than Mike. Yeah, Jay. Pardon? Yeah, where does this constantly keep? When you register for course, it comes into play, which is when you're in the controller. The methods in the controller constantly they keep referring to this. So if you go to delete, if you want to delete a course registration, you can see that it uses the ID. So if we just get rid of it, it's harder to. So if I went into this course registration and said, okay, I get rid of the made-up key, I'll just use this composite, then it's harder to get access to that particular instance. So in each of the methods in the controller, this is getting used, and if not, we'll have to try to find a way to send both these values from the user interface from the view into the controller methods, which makes it more complicated. So instead, and this is the part that Mike found out, is you can use what are called indexes, and that acts as a surrogate key. So the syntax, which is what I need to keep track of, is, okay, so all these data annotations use these square brackets, so you can say index, and index, around the index you have, it's almost like a method, so you can set up parameters inside of it, and when you set up an index, you want to basically give a name to the index. So the first parameter is a string. So the string, you can call it like course registration index or something like that. So course registration index. This is basically the alternate key. So if you prefer alternate key, you can call it alternate key or unique key as well. Yeah.
I think that would be referenced across all of your classes. So if you had multiple classes with alternate keys, you're basically going to say this is the same thing for each of them.
Okay.
So I think you want it to be unique for each. So you want to do like course registration alternate key.
Yeah. That's it. That's what I meant. Like, so instead of, so you could say like index course registration or alternate key AK, something like that. So with whatever you prefer, since they're using the term index, I guess I said, okay, let's go with index, course registration index, or prefix it someplace to indicate it is. Okay, so that's the first parameter. The second is you specify, since there are two different properties or columns involved here, so I'm going to say this is one of them, so this is the order, and whether it's going to be unique or not, and obviously we want to make this index unique, so you set it to true. So this is one piece of the index. Okay, the second component is the student ID. So I call it, if you want it to be a part of the same index, you want to call it by the same name. The only thing different here is that this is the second in the list of properties or columns to be a part of that index or unique key, and I'll make this combination unique now. Okay, so this helps me to set up the same logic as this alter table over here. Okay, and why is this so much better than using this?
Every time you up here, roll back here, and then
Yeah, as Cecilia just pointed out, if each time I do the updates, the database updates, and then roll back, it's like this gets destroyed. So I'll have to run the script each time, and that's where it breaks down that MVC with the agile approach, because here we have to remember to do something separate outside of the MVC environment. Okay, so this is one piece. The other piece is what did we do with SQL script to implement? This is to check if available openings are greater than or equal to 0, and so if you go into course offering for available openings, you can, and I don't know if there is any other alternative. Again, this was Mike's suggestion, and I have not explored it as much. So for the range data annotation, you can see it takes all of these properties here. The three that at least I found most useful, you want to set a minimum. So I don't know if you can set it without the maximum.
No, you have to put a maximum.
Yeah, it does seem to indicate that you have to have a maximum. The one that we are obviously interested in is the minimum, because that's what we don't want to allow. So we set the minimum at 0, and the maximum. This is again something that Mike explored and said, well, we'll go with the maximum value for integers, and I off the top of my head, I don't know what the maximum we can.
Who's saying it right there?
What's that?
Embedded in the intelligence.
It does say it? Okay.
Max value, and then it shows
Okay, so it is like 214 million. Okay. So
our business logic goes, it should always work.
well, I'm assuming we can set some, what would be the minimum value if it's a negative one? Okay. What if we want to set it to, okay, if we want, I guess, it won't be a constant, so let's set it to this max value. And then the other thing that I found helpful was setting an error message. So you could say error message, something like no openings. So these 3 parameters. Okay, so once you have this, you wouldn't have to write the SQL script for implementing these constraints. Okay, once I've done that, I could go into my package manager console. Okay, so I want to first add migration, and I'll call this. I think as for my testing, I think only the one that actually results in a migration is the one with the course registration index. But I'll say added constraints or something, added index constraint, okay. Okay, so you can see that it literally creates an index which is a composite of course offering ID and student ID. Okay, once you've added the migration, now we want to roll it back. So it's going to be update database. Target, is there a dash target over the? Okay.
If it gives you that error, just put a dash course on the end of it.
Okay.
Trying to say that you're going to lose data.
Okay. So anytime there is potential data loss, I guess it prevents the alter table. So I'll force it. So update database dash target :0 dash force. One or more objects access this column. Okay, maybe I'm opening this right now. Let's see if I do this. Oh, maybe because that's interesting. Maybe because I have my
You already have them stored.
well, yeah, because I have the pre-existing constraints. What's that? Yeah. That's so I need to go in here. Let's see the unique key constraint. So let me drop this unique key constraint from course registration. And let's see, course offerings as the other constraint, the check constraint. Right-click, delete it. Okay, so let me go back now and try to update the database. Okay, so those two that I had manually set through SQL script, I needed to get rid of those constraints. Okay, so and then I will just go back, update the database. if I go into course registrations, constraints, so where is it set now? Okay, so it's being set as foreign key. Okay, and then I'll also have to do this on the on my test. So I need to go into my test database. Want to update database with the syntax for if I want to connection string before try.
It shouldn't matter where you do it, as long as you do a dash and then type C and then hit the tab key and it should automatically fill in the rest of it.
Tab key. Okay, connection string name. And this is the test. Okay, so I'm rolling back for the test database, and then I will move it forward or update the test database using the connection string. Okay, so once you have that, so we have set it up. This is just to move everything in from, instead of having it on the database, into the MVC environment. The next thing is doing the testing for the try-catch. And again, I've started exploring this after I got this information from Mike. So there are some changes that you have to make. Some work as is, some others have to change. And we also have to figure out where do we want to set up some of the checks. Now, when you set it up this way, well, one thing that can work as is this unique key. If I just call this unique key, I wouldn't even have to change anything. But obviously, I changed the name of the constraint. So I'll go into course registration, and so wherever I called it UK course registrations, now I need to change it to course registration index, because that's the name when it's going to. So this is the basis for finding out if the student is already registered or not. Now the second one, whether it's valid openings or not, I gave an error message here for course offering. And Mike, did you use some other? Did you go with this message here?
No, I didn't actually create one for that.
Okay, because this will not work. This part of it will not work if you are using this particular constraint here, this data annotation. And the only way that I found to get at that value, it's a little more convoluted. It's not as straightforward. but it does give you a sense of how you work with exceptions. So this plot here is not going to help us, which means that catching this error message will have to do little more work, and as I said, for me it became quite convoluted. You can check, you can see if you can do some other way, but what we have to do here is how many of you understand how the try catch works? Only a couple of hands. Okay. What are we trying to do? We are trying. First, we are trying to add a new course registration, right? Now, if that fails, if it succeeds, nothing is going to happen. But if it fails, we come into this block, and then we can check and see what the exception value is, and then send out an error message. Now, for the second part where we are looking to reduce available openings, if there's a violation of where it goes below this is what we have said is this is the minimum value. So if it goes below 0, or if it tries to go below 0, the error that's generated is not a generic exception. It's a more specific type of exception called it's called a DB entity. Where is it? It's interesting. It should show up in the some reason. Okay, let's see if I type it and maybe there's a using state. Yeah. That's why I'm not seeing it show up. Okay, data annotation. There is a data annotation. This particular clause is where is this catch DB entity validation. So let me try this, and maybe it uses a DB entity validation exception. So let's see if there is a using statement here. It's using system.data.entity.validation. Okay, so that's the using statement. So then so this is one of the things I need to add to my list maybe is how many of you understand inheritance in the object-oriented world? Okay, what about polymorphism? Have we discussed it at all? Polymorphism? Okay. Okay, I'm just thinking maybe that at some point in the next couple of weeks I should probably bring in. So I'll make a note of this, because one of the things is this one here, this data validation exception. This is the highest level class of exceptions, the generic exception. So this is a subclass of it. Okay. when you use try-catch blocks, you have to start with, like, so you think of it, if I'm checking for, let's say there can be cats and dogs, okay, but if my first check is to check if it's an animal, okay, will a cat and a dog, will it distinguish between a cat and a dog if I just say catch animal? It will, but regardless of whether it's a cat or a dog, it's going to catch it, right? So if I put the generic version first, what will happen? It will catch any type of exception. So how do I start my exception? I want to start with something very specific, and then I go to, if it doesn't catch it, then I go to the more general one. So I'll first say catch cat, catch dog, and if it's not in either category, then I'll have a catch animal. So that's the same kind of concept here, that I start with something that's a DB entity validation error, and then if it doesn't get caught there, I'll just catch it as a generic exception.
If you flip them around, it would tell you the student was already registered, even though it was because there was no seat available.
Yeah, it will, well, if I flip it around, it will try to get into this exception and try to see if there is, if it can handle it over there, and it will never come down to the most specific case. Again, I would suggest you explore this a little more. I'll give some more examples as we go forward. This is a little bit convoluted, so let me just call this DB or DB exception, exception. Okay, and then I will, and this is where I want to make it cleaner sometime later, but for now it's layers of loops, so I'll have to set a for each. I need to get into, so the DB exception for each, I need to set a generic variable called entity validation errors. So what the system MVC is saying is there could be many data validation errors inside an exception. So I'll see DB exception dot entity validation errors. Okay. So basically it's going to get me a list of entity validation errors. So I'm going to go inside, and unfortunately, well, this could also be multiple of them. So I need to set up another for each. And inside of it, I have to say another generic variable, let's say validation error in. So this is a loop, right? And I'm setting up a loop inside a loop, so it's a nested loop. And then entity validation errors, which is going to have a list of validation errors. And the good thing about this is I could pull out multiple of errors, but I'm only going to look for so I'm going to just look for this one error. So I'm going to say string DB exception error. And if you want to accumulate errors, you'll have to set it up as an initialized variable. And the reason I would do that is if I'm looking for catching multiple of these exceptions, then I will say validation error dot error message. Okay. So what I'm doing here is if I had, let's say, 5 different error messages, I could accumulate all of these into this string. and then check to see what happened. But in our case, we're only going to get one. Okay, and if I do get this error message, what I want to do is I want to send it out to that same view. So view bag.error message, I want to send it here. Okay. Now the last piece, okay, it's not called error message, I called it DB exception error. Okay. So that handles, so this is going to handle my no, it's going to say, yeah, not available, or if I want to make it more explicit, I can go back in here and say, where is my course offering? No openings in this course or whatever. Right now it'll just say no openings. Okay, the third part, so this was something that Abdul Leela had taken care of. Now, the part that it was not working in his logic was that this exception is caught if there's a problem here, right? When we reduce and then save it to the database. Now, the only way to, so what happens here is the first step is what's the business functionality here? This first step. This is we are register or enroll student in course offering. So the first step is we are registering a student in course offering. Now, if that goes through, then we are reduce available openings. Now, unfortunately, if this goes through, but then this doesn't, this stays as is, right? So how do we avoid this? And the only way that there might be other ways which might be a little cleaner or elegant, but the only way I figured out, and I'll ask you for your suggestions, what do you think is one way that we can avoid having this registration take place if this is going to throw an error? Yes, Stella? Okay, that's a very simple solution. So what Stella is saying is just move this, make it the first step. If we have this course, so then we'll have to move this above as well. Okay. Okay, so that's a simple solution. What would be, is there any other solution? So basically then you throw as soon as you throw the exception, you are sent out of this and you don't have anything else, anything else happening. Okay, yeah.
Could you just remove the word DB dot safety? So that it's like,
It doesn't go to the database?
yeah, that's what I and then the DB dot safety. I don't know if that would work or not.
Okay, that's actually a cleaner solution if it does work. So what Mike is saying is if we don't send it to the database until we check both, which might be interesting too. So let's try this out. I think the cleaner solution would be you don't want to reduce availability until you actually register the student. So which means both really need to go through together. So the cleanest design would be if we try to send it to the database together, if one fails, then both should fail. Okay, so let's try that out and see if that works. Okay, so this solution would be you just need to comment out or remove DB save changes. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put some breakpoints. And then I'll see where the okay, I'll also change the data here so that it does course offerings. Okay, I'll change it to 0 availability for. I don't think I can edit here. Okay, so I'm going to debug this. So 0 registration. Okay, so it's stopped here. If I check course offering ID 2, student ID 3. Okay, so if I continue on, reduce and go to DB save changes. Okay, so it should come inside this. Okay, and if I continue on, openings. Okay, so if I go back to registration, it's not added the new registration in, left it at 0. So again, I reluctantly give credit to Mike. But it's good because my solution was much more convoluted. So and Stiller's was the other one. So sometimes so you have two different options, and it's interesting because over here, if we switch this around, then what is the potential danger if we move this as the first step and this register as the second step? Decrement, of course, without actually undecrementing it by mistake. You can take out a seat and it never roll that change back. So Mike is on the right track, but can somebody else tell me where would it become a real problem? Yeah.
I think it would reduce openings, and if the error, whether you're reducing some error would be that you're already registered.
Yeah, so for example, like since I gave Abdul Leela as the example earlier, let's say he doesn't want any of the other students to graduate this in spring. Okay, so what can he do?
Because it's
can keep doing it until it keeps down, but you won't be registered again.
Yeah, he can keep on registering 30 times, and so while he will be registered only once, the number will constantly keep reducing. So he won't. Nobody will even know that it is him who is doing the stuff. But it is interesting. So if we go by, if we want to follow the business logic, then we have to first try to register and then reduce the available openings, only if that happens successfully. And as Mike pointed out, the simplest solution is if you don't go to the database, the violation doesn't occur, so we can continue on. Okay, very good. From now on, any problem I have, I'll just put it up there and you can solve it. Okay, so that's the last part was the logic for calculating the GPA. So who did that? There were 3 or 4 of you. Josh, you did it. Mike, did you or not? No?
I don't have it done the way I want it done.
Okay, so, okay. Well, let's see. Stella, you said you have it too. Okay, Josh, Stella, so I'll open up Josh and Stella. Let's see. So, Stella, as soon as I enter a grade, would that, so for example, Madeline, you decided not to give her any GPA. So if I go to the courses that Madeline has taken, or graded student, okay. So grade the student. So what Stella has done is she's just changed the name for the links. So if I go in, give a letter grade, okay, nullable object must have a value. What's that? You're making it even worse for Madeline now. What's that?
See, I was having problems. I've had that error. If I can go back to graded student and class, it already has one grade.
Okay, so you're saying that if they don't already have a grade assigned, then it is causing this problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me try Josh's version here. So let me try the registration. So students. Okay, so let's see. Somebody like Chris has 1.0. So let's see if I go into Chris's.
That was just the default. It's from
okay, so you gave one. Okay, so let's see how they registered for any course or no. Okay, so let's There's,
It should update if you add it first.
okay. So if I add create new, okay, so I have a 4.0, so if I go to, was it Susie? Yeah. So it went back
So I
to,
had the problem that she had.
Okay.
By in grade point, we had this dot get value or default. I think the default is in the middle.
okay. Maybe I'll open up, we have about 5-6 minutes. So since there are multiple pieces, maybe, well, let me see if I can go over some of the logic now. You could potentially set up, you can set up a SQL statement and think of the equivalent link statement. That would be the equivalent SQL statement. The other is combining link with some of the C# loops. Okay, so let's try to go over that logic. Okay, so we said it's a method in. So where the big picture, where is the method? For calculate student GPA, the method is going to be in the student class. But as far as where the data is spread out, it's in, you need the student's registrations for the courses that he or she has taken, and then you need to get the course credit, so you navigate through course offering to course. So if you want to get to, so we'll set this up in student class, calculate GPA. And the first thing we need, well, I need to get to the, I need to be able to go to the database because I have this data in various places. So I'm going to application DB context. I'll say database equals new application database context. Okay, and then I need to get the list of all the courses that this particular student has taken. Okay, and this is where I said let's make it, because it's only one student object, we'll make it an instance method instead of a class method. So we are going to try to get all the course registrations for this one student. So the way I do that is I'm going to go to the database and I'm going to look at course registrations. Okay. The course registrations alone are not going to be sufficient because I get the course registrations, then I want to get the course credits. And again, if you experiment and come with a more cleaner solution, you can do it or send it to me or discuss it with me. What I'm going to do is, as I get the students' course registrations, I also want to bring in the associated, what does the big picture tell you? As I bring in the course registration, I need to get at the course credit, so I'm going to include the course offering as well. Where is my load? Okay. And at this point, I don't know if this will work or not. You can experiment and see if I can pull in a third piece, and I think that doesn't work. Okay, so but this piece should work. Okay, so I'm including this, and then I'm going to impose a where clause. And what do I impose the where clause on? on the course registrations with a lambda expression CR dot, what am I looking for? The courses taken by this particular student, right? So CR dot student ID should be the same as what? Equivalent to. And this is the part where if you make it an object method, where is the ID? Yeah.
Well, I can answer that question and another question. This object method we can use as a dot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Object method, wouldn't it make more sense to have the return type be void and just do this dot GPA at the end equals?
Yeah. Yeah, you could. What Preston is saying is, since this is an instance method and there is a student GPA property, you don't have to return this value. The only reason for returning this would be to make it testable in the test. Otherwise, you'll have to then look inside the GPA of that object, which may be, but which might also work, but I first wanted to test it with the unit test.
I started out using it like this, like to write my unit test, but what I was running into was my unit test was passed. If I had 1A, 1B, it would pass with 3.5 GPA, but my U would round up to 4.0. So for some reason, there's something between my C# and my database layers, where when it goes to database and stacks.
Okay, we'll address that next. I want to make sure that the students understand this logic, and then we can address the next piece. Okay, so once we have the student ID, then I can get the list of what is this? The list of what? Course registrations. Okay. So this gives me the list of course registrations. So list course registration, and I can call this something that makes sense. Student course registrations. Okay. This is 7:15 now. So the issue is, once I have this, what do I need? I need to now go one step further into it to now pull out. Where's my diagram? So once I am inside of each of them, I get the grade points here, but I need to get the course credits here. So I have to drill down, which means I need to set up how do I drill into this list? By setting up a for each. So I have to do a for each loop, and I'll have to look at course registration. And I can say each course registration in student course registrations, and then I drill into each one, get I'll have to find, one is I'll have to go get the course credits from the course, so which means one thing is, again, to go to the database, get it, so something like this, database dot courses dot find, and how do I find the course? Each course registration dot course offering dot course ID. Okay, so this will get me that one particular course. So I can say course, and then I can drill down into this course to get the course credits. And so, if you have not already done this, I would suggest doing this, working on this, and connecting it up with the other piece. But the other part, I obviously don't want you to just be watching the inauguration and other stuff. So the issue is to look at what's the other piece that we have been discussing. This is wasn't it when you're registering for a student, when you're registering a student for a course, and this is what Cody said, right? You said you can only register a student only if all the prereqs are taken, right? And we said that the only way you can start thinking of it is if you start setting up a unary association. So I want you to set up this unary association, and how does it get implemented in the model, and then start thinking of how you can check for that. Okay, so that will be our task for the next few days. So on Tuesday, though, we'll start getting into these other pieces. If you have questions, ask me. If not, I'll see you on Tuesday. Yeah. The Azure? Yeah.
I don't know if you saw my email last night or not. It was kind of late.
No, I just was.
I can't, for whatever reason, when I do Azure,
Yeah.
because it's a last semester, I can't, with Azure, I can't access Word.